Hi, Judy. Hi, everybody. I can't believe we're all here so early. What's wrong with lunch? I mean, I went to a party last night, and it was a publisher's party, and everybody was hammered. So I don't know if any of the people I met last night are here. Oh, someone honked. You can't say hammered? Okay, so I am seriously honored to be standing before you because I am not from this world. Anywho, I feel like I'm actually standing in front of, beside, I guess, the movie stars and rock stars of the Litterverse. So I'm very honored. You know, I didn't come from a reading family. I didn't come from a family of readers at all. I came from a family of Snicker eaters and TV watchers. And my family, I never actually saw my mother or my father read a book. Maybe they did, but I didn't see them reading any books. So I started off, however, an excellent reader. When I hit first grade, my teacher, Mrs. Bowlby, thought that she had a prodigy on her hands. I could read anything. I could read C-Tip, C-Tip run, C-Tip run fast, C-Tip run faster, C-Tip run his ass off. And I had already mastered Jack and Janet, Little Black Sambo. I don't think we have that book anymore. And nursery rhymes. My sister Colette was 4 years older than me. And then where am I? She was 4 years older than I. Thank you. And so I had read all of her books by the time I got to first grade. Actually, what it turned out that I had done was I had memorized all of her books. So when I was handed my first new book in the first grade, I was literally illiterate. I didn't know how to say one word. So reading became monumentally painful and depressing and embarrassing, especially when I had to read out loud because I didn't know how to read. But my teacher, Mrs. Bowlby, stuck with it. And by the time I was in the second grade, I was an excellent reader. And yet I had no interest in books. So I was much too consumed with Leave It to Beaver and Bonanza and Doris Day movies. So I didn't really have time for books. And throughout junior high school and high school, I read about 50 books, and they were all yellow and by a famous author named Mr. Cliff. I'm sure you've heard of him. I never did a real book report, and I actually never did read a real book. Sometimes I made up my book reports. I made up my books and my stories. They were all by foreign authors. They were obscure authors that my teacher would have no way of contacting or verifying. And it was before the internet, so she couldn't even Google to see if they were real. And this worked. They were foreign masterpieces that were relics. They were very old books. They were books that my grandfather had brought from the old country, Princeton, Missouri. But there was an upside to my fake book reports, which is that I actually had to learn to write. So I was forced to create entire storylines, and I had to create the characters in my fake books and their fake experiences in the fake countries they lived in, and so I became pretty proficient at fake stuff. So also, a lot of these authors were from the very far east, so far that some had countries that we haven't heard of. But I wonder if my teachers knew what I was doing and they just didn't, they just didn't come down on me because they were sort of encouraging my writing. I'm sure it took me twice as long to fabricate these than to actually read a book, but I was hell-bent on not reading a book. But I did read one book by the time I finished high school. I read A Separate Peace. And then I went around asking everybody, every person I ran into, have you read A Separate Peace? Yeah, oh my God, it's incredible. It's an incredible novel. It's extraordinary, really. I mean, you really must read A Separate Peace. This went on for some time. So then, but it made me feel very important that I'd read a book, and it made me feel like I was somebody, like I was intelligent. And so when I went to college, I majored in English literature because I could speak English, and I had read a book. So I became consumed in college with Bob, who is the man I ended up marrying when I was 19. He was my first husband, but so I didn't make it to many of my classes, and I actually ended up flunking Chaucer. And so I just wrote him off as, Chaucer was just this idiot who was trying to copy William Shakespeare. And then, until I found out that, he died 160 years prior to Shakespeare. And all the literature became confusing to me because I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what books to really read. I took a great creative writing class in my sophomore year. I liked it. I liked the professor. I worked really, really hard on my first short story. I worked on it for a month solid. It was called Sarah's House, which I later faked my first acting resume by turning Sarah's House into a fake movie that I'd been the fake lead of. But Sarah's House, anyway, I worked really hard on it. It was a very, very, very serious story of love and loss, and it was dark, it was deep, it was poignant, it was extremely dramatic, and I received an A+ for my story. I was ecstatic, and the teacher, Mr. Nyberg, liked me and my story so much that he actually put a notation at the top of the page which said, "Beautiful work, Kirstie. You have real talent for comedy writing, hysterically funny. It had me in stitches." So I didn't write for a while after that. In my late 20s, someone gave me a Stephen King book when we were on a vacation, and I actually read it from cover to cover. Back to front. I couldn't put it down. And then I read all of Stephen King's books, for real, but I never could put them down. I went through my period where I always had a Stephen King book, and you couldn't speak to me. But I ended up reading them all, and then I sort of segued into the Catcher in the Rye, books that people read for real in high school and college. And I began to sort of fall in love with books. Now, I'm not an e-book reader. I'm not an e-book writer either. I like to write longhand. I can't write on a computer because it comes very contrived. But I also like the feel of a book, and I like the smell of the book, and I like the pages turning, and it makes me feel like I'm somebody, that I get to have this in my hand. So, and I like people to ask me, is that a good book? And then I like to say, yeah, well, it is good, and I like to give my comments, and I like the social interaction, and it becomes a fun game. So I like that part of reading a book, too. So I learned to love books, and I learned to love words and the way authors strung them together in their own unique fashion. And I thought, maybe I could actually write a book. And I guess the thing that I have to offer is that, I guess the best thing about books is the stories. And I thought, I have stories to offer. I have a lifetime full of stories to offer. And I've lived a very long life, not all of it fat, as might be the rumor. My book is called The Art of Men, because I realized that when I looked over my life, whether I like it or not, and don't get me wrong, I love women. I have 20 close women friends. I am a woman's woman, but I realized that 98% of the effects in my life, the people who influenced me, were actually men. from directors, producers, mentors, lovers. What else is there besides lover? Husbands. From Woody Allen to Woody Harrelson. The stories that I have are entertaining, and I wanted my book to be entertaining. I wanted my book to allow people to know, proof positive, that you can survive anything. You know, I know that everybody's swept away by Christian Grey, and you know, we see everyone reading this book, and I'm not here to one-up another author. I'm not. But you know, I didn't find it very factual because I lived with a guy. It's in my book. I lived with a guy for 3 years who sort of made Christian Grey look like Justin Bieber. And I mean, he didn't even pee on her. He didn't choke her. He didn't try to suffocate her. You know what I'm saying? I mean, here's where Hollywood comes into play. You want S&M or you want S&M light? If it's S&M you're looking for, then you will like my book, part of it. I will tell you everything Mr. Grey did to me, and that's just the first 100 pages. You know, I was sitting with Courtney Love one night after my Mr. Grey. We'll just call him Mr. J. I don't have to say his name. Look it up, Google it. I was sitting with Courtney Love one night, and I was sobbing and sobbing, like, oh my God, look what I've become, look what's happened to me, look what he did, look what he did, look what he did. And Courtney Love looked at me, and she goes, you know what, Kirstie? I'm Courtney Love. I've been with every freak in Hollywood. This dude is fucked up. And I was feeling pretty good, because he was. And I was like, I know, he is. And she goes, and you know what? You're fucked up for being with the motherfucker. And anyway, that was Courtney Love, and her advice is in the book, too. I want to thank you for allowing me to host this event. And I want to thank all of you who came from near and... What the fuck? This is like the Emmys or the Oscars. I guess I'm done, whatever. Anyway, I want to thank people. I want to thank all of you for coming. I do hope, I mean, I have to say, you know, I hope that you read my book and enjoy it. I mean, why wouldn't I want you to? So anyway, now I'm going to introduce some, well, I guess you could call these real authors. I guess you could. Seriously.